Hello, class. Your professor here. This is the cut from our magic stream with Dean Arkon, going over its history, the colors, and the names for various color pairings. If you'd like to attend our live class, we're over at twitch.tv/professor_Genki. Thanks for watching.
All right. So, hello. I am Dean Arkon, or Arkon, Dean of Gaia Schematics, otherwise known as World Building. Um, and I'm here today to learn you about some Magic the Gathering, specifically Commander. I'm the guest lecturer for today. So, let's start at the beginning, because, well, that's where things begin. So, back in the early 1990s, there was a professor of mathematics named Richard Garfield and the owner of a very small game company that primarily made things that were used in D&D games named Peter Adkinson. Peter Adkinson owned this company called Wizards of the Coast, and Richard Garfield had always wanted to make games for a living, but because he figured that was not a realistic aspiration, especially not at the time when he was growing up, he decided to become a mathematician instead. Richard Garfield approaches Peter Adkinson and says, I have an idea for a game that your company could make. And Peter Atkinson says, sure, let me see it. And that was the start of a great friendship, as Richard Garfield presented a game that would change many things. Robo Rally. Yeah, so Richard Garfield wanted to make this game called Robo Rally, which is an actual game. It was made later.
Based?
But the thing is that Robo Rally requires a lot of parts and like a lot of cardboard and a lot of pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And Wizards of the Coast had two things that it could do, which was it had connections to an art college in town, and it had connections to someone who could make paper stock. So Peter Atkinson said, "Look, we can't do this, but could you make a game that could be played in between games of D&D at conventions?" Richard Garfield said, "Let me try." And that is where Magic the Gathering comes in, because that is the game that Richard Garfield makes. They take it to Origin Game Fest, if I'm not mistaken, in August of 1993. They bring 2.6 million individual cards. Jeez, don't know what that was. Known as Limited Run Alpha in the community, and they sell out by the end of the weekend. So they rush and they print another several million cards, and they sell out over the course of a few months. By the end of 1993, Magic the Gathering is a ridiculously successful product, a ridiculously successful game from basically nothing. It was so hard to get Magic at the time that the lead designer of Magic the Gathering today, Mark Rosewater, could not get his hands on an alpha or beta deck until like years later. And he was working at a game store. He wanted to buy one from the game store the day it came in. They sold out before he could get one, and he worked there.
Oh, God.
Magic the Gathering, one of the reasons why it is so successful, and why it, well, one, it was the first. Two, um, two is that it's actually a really deep game. Plus, there are a lot of what we call formats. What in other card games would be completely different games, or there's like two ways to play, but one of the ways is just a more restricted version of the normal way to play the game. In Magic, there are like 10 supported formats. There's Standard, which is cards from the most recent 2 years. There's Modern, which is any card printed from like 2006 till now. There's Legacy and Vintage, which are both eternal formats, but one has a banned list and one has a restricted list instead, which means that they're wildly different formats. But the one we're talking about today is the most played of the constructed formats, meaning you actually make a deck before you get to the event instead of making a deck at the event. That's called Limited. And that is Commander. The rules of Commander are relatively simple. It is, instead of a 60 card deck, it is a 100 card deck. One of those cards must be your commander. The commander must be a legendary creature or some other card that says this card can be your commander. And every single card in your deck must be within your commander's color identity. That's to say, the cost to play your commander plus the colors within the cost to play your commander plus the colors of any ability your commander has. All that together, all of your cards must be within those colors. So if you have a commander like Shitterfang, the squirrel commander, that's a black-green commander because squirrels are black and green apparently.
That's so funny.
Yes. Or you can just be like me and you can play, the first sliver.
True.
And make your friends not want to play against your commander deck. The first sliver is... I play slivers, folks. I knew what I was getting into. We got 4 people. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
So let's. We're also going to be talking a bit, or rather, I'm going to be talking a bit about color, the color philosophy. So, there's 5 colors in Magic, which you can kind of think like 5 types in Pokemon. Except instead of having weaknesses and resistances against each other, they have like ideology behind them. So, let's start. There are 5 colors: white, blue, black, red, and green. White draws from the plains, as in like flat land. Blue draws from the islands. Black draws from the swamps, red from the mountains, and green from the forests. White is the color of law, of healing, of light, and of selflessness. It's really hard to get a mono white villain because it's really hard to get a villain who is selfless and likes healing people. But obviously, if you care about the law above everything else, that's still white, and that's where a lot of the mono white villains come in. Any color, the colors aren't like scale of how evil you are. You can be evil and be any color. You can be good and be any color. It's just a lot harder to be a selfless villain than it is to be a selfish one. Each color also has 2 allies and 2 enemies. White has blue and green as its allies, and black and red as its enemies. The reason why white disagrees with black is because white believes that there is an objective morality. Black believes that there is no such thing as an objective morality. And so, whereas white will try to always be selfless, black will generally try to be more self-centered. White disagrees with red over law, where white believes that law and order are the best ways to achieve good for everyone. Red believes that independence and fewer restrictions are the better option. Next, we'll go to blue. We're going to do all of the color pairs at the end. Excuse me. Next, we're going to go to blue. Blue is the color of education, of thought, of water magic, and sometimes wind magic. And also the color of the blank slate. If you believe in nurture rather than nature, you believe in a blue idea. Blue, however... Oh, sorry. I forgot. The bad of white comes in where it's a lot of the colors, they have these ideas. And when they're taken too far, that's when you get into the evil of them. So When you go too far with law, you get bureaucracy. When you go too far with community in white, you get xenophobia. In blue, when you go too far with education, you get pretension. When you go too far with thought, you get stagnation. Blue blue does not change. Blue changes, but it changes in very, very measured steps. It won't do something if it knows that it might fail. It's basically scared of failure. Um, Blue is enemies with red and green, and allied with black and white. That also means it's a bit more swayed by uh, good or bad morality. Is that it can be pulled to either side of believing there definitely is or definitely isn't objective morality. Blue disagrees with red because red is impulsive and blue is logical. So blue sees red and thinks, what a reckless person. And red sees blue and thinks, man, what a snob. What a. Blue is like a Vulcan, and red is like Captain Kirk. Blue sees green, and this is the nature nurture conflict. Just kind of put into a color pair. Blue is nurture, green is nature. Blue believes that there is no such thing as destiny. Green is very confident that there's such a thing as destiny. We'll go to black next. Black is the color of ambition, of well, how do I put this without adding morality to it? Black is the most evil of the colors. It's the most easy to be evil because it's the color of selfishness. It's the color of blood magic. But at the same time, it's also, ironically enough, one of the colors that does the most healing. Black has a few issues with generally being the evil color in Magic, but that's not to say that there aren't good guys. For example, in Kamigawa, they did a storyline where a mono black character was the good guy and a mono white character was the bad guy because the mono white character was so obsessed with law and the community, their community, that they angered the spirits of the world. The mono black character was fighting against this because he and his friends were also living in the world and were starting to be affected by the war with the spirits.
Neat.
Black can either be the most loyal or the most disloyal, depending on the person more than their color identity, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you manage to break through the shell of a person who is who's mono black aligned, you could either have your closest ally or you can have someone who will still stab you in the back. But that's a personal thing, not a the color thing, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Black is enemies with white and green. The black green color identity is one of the more interesting ones because they basically agree on the same thing. They're just different sides of it. Black and green are basically the circle of life. Green is birth, black is death. White and black, once again, they're more or less the idea of morality or even just whether or not, I guess, utilitarianism almost, where white will sacrifice the few for the needs of the many. Black believes that you should have a say in that. Red is next. Red is the color of passion. It's the color of emotion. It is the color of art. It is also, however, the color of recklessness. It's the color of destruction, just as it is creation. Red is basically any emotion that you can think of when turned up to 11. That becomes a red thing. One of the things that you can think of is if you if you turned down like zeal into confidence, you kind of change colors. When you turn down nope. When you turn down love too much, it can become just being familial or
Mhm.
something like that. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Red's enemies are blue and white. Um, uh, blue red is the logic versus emotion thing. It's the facts versus feelings, if you want to call it that. Um, red white is that law versus chaos thing.
Mhm.
Depending on how you want to see it, it's either law versus chaos or restriction versus freedom. Lastly is green. Green is the color of nature. It is the color of earth. It is also sometimes the color of wind magic, earth and wind magic. It's the color of animals, and it is the color of destiny.
Mhm.
Green is the color, whereas blue is stagnant because it doesn't want to make mistakes. Green is not stagnant; it just wants to stay where it is. Green does not like change, or at least it only likes very natural, slow change of evolution over the course of many, many, many years.
Mhm.
Um, Green's enemies are blue and black, and both of those conflicts basically stem from the same thing. Whereas green black is kind of life cycle. There's also a little bit of the uh, blue green conflict in there where green believes in destiny. Green believes that, everyone has a purpose, but that purpose is already decided. Blue does not agree. Blue believes everyone is a blank slate. Black also believes that only black should have a say in what your destiny is. And so, with that, we've gone through all the colors and their enemies. And now let's go into Ravnica, I guess.
Hell yeah.
That sound good to you?
Love
So,
Ravnica.
um, Ravnica is the most popular plane in Magic. It is an entire plane where there are 10 guilds, and they formed a city called Ravnica. Oh, yeah.
Let me up that. There we go.
Thank you.
No problem.
So Ravnica is one plane where the entire plane is covered in a single city. There is no place that is wild left, except the places that specifically the Gruul clans are, well, keeping things wild. So let's get into it. There are 10 guilds: Azorius, Senate, House Demir, Cult Rakdos, or the Rakdos cult, the Gruul clans, the Selesnya Conclave, the Orzhov Syndicate, the Izzet League, the Golgari Swarm, the Boros Legion, and the Simic Combine. The Azorius Senate. Yep.
I just love the way these are named so much.
Yes. The Azorius Senate is the bureaucrats, the how do I want to call it? They're the people who make the laws and also the people who run the prisons. They aren't the people who are the police. The Azorius blue white is an allied color pair, which means they agree on something. And what blue and white agree on is structure. Blue likes learning, and they like learning in a structured way. White likes structure because white is the color of law. So together, they make this bureaucratic nightmare of 10,000 gears that are spinning together and with even the slightest nudge might grind to a halt. But they might not. And that's kind of how the city has been run, because there's enough other guilds that are able to smack them around when they start doing stupid stuff. One of those guilds is House Demir. In the first set of Ravnica, Demir was supposed to. It was supposed to be. There's 9 guilds in Ravnica. Ignore the Demir. Even though everyone knew that the Demir were around, both out of game and kind of in game. Demir is a blue-black, and where they agree is they like lying to people, or rather, they like having the most information, and they don't care about giving it out to anyone else. So they like lying to people. House Demir is basically a assassin organization, you could think of them as, who also runs the libraries and also the news media. Because as it turns out, when you just have all of the information, you can just sell people whatever you want them to know, because haha propaganda is fun. And a card in blue. Would you look at that? Next around the wheel, we got the Cult of Rakdos. Black Red. Black Red
My favorite.
is... Yeah. Black Red is an interesting color combination. Because Black Red is one of the few color combinations that can either be hyper aggressive with, like, I will pay 5 life to deal 5 extra damage to you aggressive, or will be so unbelievably controlling that you can't even understand why that is. Because red and black have a lot of good control spells. Red can deal direct damage, black can kill creatures. Red can destroy artifacts, black can kill other stuff. Red-black can either be really controlling, or they can lean more into the red aspect and, well, be the Cult of Rakdos. The Cult of Rakdos is a cult and a circus. They are the street performers. They are the entertainment of the city of Ravnica. And their leader is the demon Rakdos, who formed a city, supposedly, just to have more people that he could be a demon towards. And given what's happened, he was very successful.
So based.
The Cult of Rakdos is one of the least, like, kill people versions of Black Red, because they're more about the performance and that stuff than they are about the cause people a lot of pain stuff. Black and red agree primarily on I should be free to decide for myself what happens. Black is selfish, red is black can be selfish, red can be very independent. So black red together makes a person who basically wants to be either left alone or they will kill you so that they can be left alone. Red-green is next, the Gruul clans. This is the most animalistic of the color combinations. Red and green agree that, green believes in the status quo, red likes being left alone, leave alone the status quo. That means let nature do what it wants in a very might makes right kind of way. I was thinking of Naya. Naya is red, green, white. That's why I misspoke. Might makes right kind of way. The Gruul clans were originally supposed to be the heralds and the wardens of the wild areas, and then there were no more wild areas, so they're really angry and they break things to make them wild again.
Kind of base.
Yeah, the Gruul clans, they're basically like a how do I want to put this? They're basically anarchists, but like they actually go around causing anarchy. The, as opposed to a lot of modern day anarchists who just kind of
Get really pissy on Reddit.
go
Twitter.
protests. Yeah. Go Reddit, Twitter, Tumblr.
They read the
Speaking of,
anarchist cookbook and actually decided to make bombs.
they read the anarchist cookbook and decided we're eating tonight, boys. Um, Speaking of the opposite of anarchy, we have the Selesnya Conclave, the communists.
That's so
That's
accurate. That's
that's a that's partially a joke. However, the Selesnya Conclave does in fact brainwash its members. Um, the Selesnya Conclave is white green. They they believe in the community above all. That could be the natural community. That could be the community of a bunch of different people. But they believe in the community above everything else.
I love how
If
I love how Selesnya is more of a cult than the literal cult of Rakdos is.
Yes, yes, they are. The cult of Rakdos wants to impress Rakdos because he's basically the Medici family.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's one of the founders of the city. He has more money than God.
Yeah.
Like, actually, he probably does have more money than the actual dragon god on this plane, Niv Mizzet.
Yeah, true, actually.
Because Niv Mizzet blows stuff up enough that he has to pay for collateral. Well, Rakdos just doesn't care. Oh, I should probably say, what Rakdos does, they provide the entertainment. What Gruul does is, what Selesnya does is, they are, I think, they're the second most populous, the second most populous of the guilds after Golgari. And what Selesnya does is they are, they basically, they're part of the food. The other is the Golgari. We'll get to the Golgari.
Mm-hmm.
They're the hospital basically.
Gotcha.
Selesnya. So yes, they are actually in fact a cult, like an actual cult, not just called a cult. Their previous their founder, Matt Selesnya, decided to become a tree named V2 Ghazi. And V2 Ghazi has just kind of been around.
That's I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That always catches me
Um,
off guard when I'm reminded about it.
I mean, to be fair, their founder was a dryad, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Tree powers
Uh,
activate.
speaking of God, let's talk about the Orzhov Syndicate. I like that it's just called a syndicate, so there's not really any confusion as to what they are.
Yeah.
This is a crime. This is 6 crime families, which are both the banks and the church.
So
Together.
just like real life.
Well, you can't take money out of a church
True.
legally. You just put money in. No, but the Orzhov Syndicate, they are the bankers and they are the priests, and that's kind of their big thing. They're a crime ring. The reason why black and white go together for them is that white is organized, black is criminal, organized crime is very black white. They're also very, I don't want to say insular because they deal with anyone, but you're either part of the family or you're not part of the family. It's kind of hard to bridge that gap.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we get to the Izzet League. The Izzet League, is it? It is. Created by a dragon, the last dragon, because all the rest of the smart dragons died, and Niv Mizzet has not been looking too much to create more of them. He has, however, made really dumb clones of himself, I think. The Izzet League is red-blue. Where they get together is that red-blue is the color of experimentation. Learning through trial and error. Learning is blue, trial and error is red, so learning through trial and error, experimentation, science in a kind of way. Oh, sorry, yeah. What the Izzet does is that they are they're the infrastructure. So they build the things, and their experiments also break them. So, like, the plumbing system made by the Izzet. If you ever wonder why your toilet explodes in Ravnica, it's because the Izzet are doing some shit. Let's go to the Golgari Swarm. The Golgari Swarm are the most populous, and while all the others like live above ground and Demir LARP as being secretive, the Golgari Swarm live in what is known as the Undercity. The Undercity of Ravnica are the past 10,000 years of buildings on Ravnica that have been built on top of more and more and more until you get to where you are today. The Golgari are the most necromantic. They are green and black, so that's actually a really good thing, is just sustaining life endlessly. They're the circle of life. The Golgari swarms kind of left the circle, or post adjacent to circle. The Golgari swarm are the most populous. They take care of the dead. They also provide the food. Don't draw a line there. They're also the waste disposal. The Golgari swarm are, in my opinion, the most important members of the Ravnica like infrastructure. Everyone else I feel the city could live without, except the Golgari swarm, because they're the people who make all the food and get rid of all the waste. They also have the most actually just a nice person leaders in their faction. Gerard was actually just a good guy. He was a lich, but he was a different kind of lich. Vraska, granted, is an assassin and leader of a basically small group of assassins, but she's gotten better from being a servant of Bolas. And then who else is there? Oh yeah, Azoni. She just likes bugs. Next is the Boros Legion. So if Azorius was the lawmaking side of Ravnica, Boros is the police of Ravnica. If I'm not mistaken, there's a story that at certain points, the Boros Legion will harass Azorius senators to make more laws for the Boros to enforce. Now, granted, the Boros also choose to not enforce about half of the laws that Azorius put into play, because while the Boros are the policing force and also like, you know, that kind of stuff, they also are red. They're white red. So white red is the most martial of the color combinations. Like an army is a white red group of people. The Boros Legion is a white red group of people. They also kind of have a bit of an angel cult. Don't worry about that. It's fine. We ignore that. But red, its two enemies are blue and white. So if the Azorius is doing something that red doesn't like, Boros is not going to do it. And last but certainly not least is the Simic Combine, the secret villains of every set in Ravnica. I'm not joking. They have tried to destroy the world more than one time. Simic are green-blue. Green-blue, in this case, agree on evolution, as in they agree on the adaptation of blue, adaptation of thought, and green's adaptation of the body to just be adaptation of everything. That means splicing jellyfish into your own bloodstream, so you're part jellyfish, or becoming a merfolk elf crocodile hybrid.
They're the most, at least to me, the most overtly like evil.
Yeah.
Of like anyone in Ravnica.
So I actually misspoke. Selesnya, I believe, is like housing and also maintaining of like public spaces.
Gotcha.
Simic are the hospitals.
Oh, that's worse.
Yes. So if you break your arm, you might end up with a baboon forearm bone in your body at some point if you go to a Simic hospital. Um, yeah, the Simic
Delightful.
they they don't have any of the religion aspect. They're basically just a bunch of mad science geneticists who no one else on the plane is willing to fight them. There's basically like two different kinds of mad science. There's the Is It, who just blow stuff up, and then there's the Simic, who create monsters beyond our comprehension, and also release the Nephilim. Because they did that. And then
Mm-hmm.
Rakdos, of all people, put them down. Because Rakdos is actually a good guy, believe it or not. So, those are the 10 guilds. Are we going to also do the shards and the wedges?
Yeah. Oh,
All
also
right.
before we move on for Ravnica,
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite characters in MTG lore is part of Boros, the Agrius Kos.
Oh, Agris Kos, yeah.
Yeah, he is one of the most based people in MTG lore, in my opinion.
Fun fact, the only reason why he came back as a ghost was because he still owed a debt to the Azorius, or no, sorry, I think he owed a debt to the Orzhov, and it
Mhm.
was paid off by having him be a ghost bailiff to the Azorius. That's the only reason why he's a ghost still.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
To be fair, everyone owes a debt to them, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the point. Oh, yeah. If you can't pay your debt off in money, you will pay it off in servitude in the afterlife. That's how the Orzhov works. But would you like to do the wedges or the shards?
Uh, since I have the shards pulled up.
It looks like you have both. You have Khans of
Oh,
Tarkir. Oh,
yeah, I have the
those are the
cons.
clans of Tarkir.
Yeah,
Those. All
there it
right.
is.
So yeah.
Then we got the
Hey, I
shards.
read this. The clans. All right. So which do you want to do first? Clans or shards? Excuse me.
Let's do the clans since
All right.
I feel like that's a good segue from the
So
guilds.
on Tarkir, all of the 5 clans worship one of the traits of the dragon. They revere above all else, whether it be the dragon's endurance, their cunning, their ruthlessness, their speed, or their savagery. And they all. So, important to note, there's 2 versions of Tarkir. There's the Khan's timeline and the Dragon's timeline, based on whether or not Sarkhan goes back in time and decides to let Ugin die or not let Ugin die. Ugin is a spirit dragon and created the dragon storms on Tarkir. Um, so in the Khan's timeline, dragons are extinct, and they have been extinct for like thousands of years. So the Abzan, a white, black, green group, use their still intact scales as armor that they can use that most weapons can't penetrate. It's important to note that the wedges from Tarkir are a bit odd as far as looking at them as wedges rather than looking at them as kind of a group. This is one of the ones that's like you kind of got to be aware of when talking about color philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Because Abzan is not normally you would think, oh, there's one color and its 2 enemies. So the mutual enemy color, in this case, black is the enemy of white and green. So black would be the center, right? No, white is the center of Abzan. Blue is the center of Jeskai, black of Sultai, red of Mardu, and green of Temur. This is one of the reasons why it's difficult to talk about the wedge colors because they weren't centered in their kind of central color. They were centered in one of the others.
Which is funny because the way they are listed out, the middle color is the
Yeah.
point, like the literal
Yes.
point of the wedge.
Yes. Um, it was because in the Dragon's timeline, it's uh Abzan turns into Dramoka, which is white green, and
Right.
they all have like one legendary creature from the Khan's timeline is
Mm-hmm.
still there in the Dragon's timeline, and they are all one color instead of two color.
Mm.
That's also you can also see it in Fate Reforged. The previous Khan of each of the clans is the primary color, and then they'll have a activated ability in
Mm-hmm.
there that has the other two colors.
Gotcha.
Um, that's for like Tassiger, Alesha, Shuyun, um, Dagatar, and I want to call her like Yeva. No, Yeva's from Ravnica. Um, I'll look it up, but anyways, so Abzan is all about endurance. Yasova, I was close.
Gotcha.
Um, Abzan is all about endurance. In basically any way necessary. This kind of um, spite against the thought of death. Um, White, black, and green are the colors that are most able to manipulate life totals. They're able to gain the most life. They are the healer colors. You can think of
Mm-hmm.
them as. White is able to do a lot of really small life gain. Green is able to do a few really big life gain things, and black is able to drain life. So that makes it so that you are a very, very difficult to kill thing. And that is where Abzan comes in. While it's centered in white, and white is more about law, when you add in the green, and especially when you add in the black, you get a group that is insanely enduring. Just stupid amounts.
Mm-hmm.
Jeskai is about education, but it's blue with red white mixed in. So it's about knowing, but it's about knowing both your mind and your body. It's very monastic. It's very much mind, body, and spirit type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the easiest one to explain why it's why it's three colors: mind, blue; body, red; spirit, white. The Sultai Brood is black with the added uh features of green and blue. Oh, that's an arena card, I
Oh.
believe.
Oh yeah, it is using that arena art.
Interesting. Um, these colors are some of the most able to use the graveyard. Black green is the color combination that uses the graveyard the most, and blue is also able to do stuff there. Blue puts stuff into the graveyard. Black and green use stuff from the graveyard. So there's this kind of constant sense of like things that are in the future are already things that are in the past, or they can just kind of swap over real easy.
Mm-hmm.
The Mardu Horde is the most aggressive of these. Red is the most aggressive color, so anything that's centered in red will have a lot of aggression. And you can see it with this guy. This is a 5 mana card with haste and is a 7/2.
Crisis 7/2.
He's a 7/2. He is massive. Anything that blocks him dies, and if you don't block him, he hits you again next turn
Hmm.
because he's indestructible on your turn. And if you block him, he gets even bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Mardu Horde, white, white and black. They don't have. White has the most creatures, and then it's green, and then it's red. And then it's like black and then red. Those two are third and fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is the most aggressive one because red likes aggression, and when you add in the black and white, it's this kind of us versus them mentality. When you add aggression to us versus them mentality, you get this lightning fast, just blitzkrieg ideology of we need to kill them as fast as we can, and the best way to do that is to attack first
Kill them before they
and
kill
attack
us.
until they are gone. Yeah. It also has one of my Mardu also has one of my favorite card names with Ankle Shanker.
Yeah, they have a lot of goblins too, huh?
Yeah, this is also where the goblins mostly are. Here and Teamer. Speaking of Teamer, nice segue. Thanks. Yeah, I said it. Teamer is the big meaty fists. That is Surrak Dragonclaw, and that is also a bear he punched in half.
Yeah, he's wearing the bear, as you can see.
Yes. Surrak Dragonclaw, is a monster because he's a human who's a 6/6. Humans normally are like 2/2s at most. Some of the really strong ones are 3/3. This guy's a 6/6. He also looks like Ned Stark in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Um so Teamer is green, blue, and red.
Mm-hmm.
Green is the most animalistic, it's the most natural of the colors, and blue and red are both colors of elements. This means that this is basically a feral color combination.
Mm-hmm.
This is you have nature. Hey, it's Jazz. Hey, Jazz.
Hey, Jazz.
Um, this means that like with green and blue and red together, you basically have a feral color combination. Like I was saying, because you have the ferocity of animals mixed with the ferocity of the elements.
Mm-hmm.
And those things combine to make, well, a human who can punch a bear in half. You can actually see that in his flavor text. His rank and his scars were earned in single combat against a cave bear.
Yeah.
That's not a bear that lives in a cave. A cave bear is actually a thing from like the past of Earth, and they were like twice. They were like those those like megafauna things
Yeah.
of like Jurassic period moose, current period moose.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what a cave bear is.
Yeah.
So that's the clans. The shards of Alara are a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
The shards of Alara were Alara was a plane in in the end a planeswalker time traveled, made Ugin live, and that's why he's around today, and the dragons won instead of the Khans, and so that's why Khans of Tarkir are not alive anymore. There are no Khans in Tarkir. There's just dragons.
Yeah, Tarkir
So
kind of became a bit of a shithole.
Tarkir was always a shithole. It's just that
True.
instead of having people at the head, it's elder dragons,
Yeah.
and only one of them actually still fights with them. The others are all
Mhm.
lazy,
Yeah.
and that's Kolagon, which is why Kolagon is the best.
True.
Anyways, the shards of Alara. So Alara is a plane that in the distant past, where there's like 4 people who remember it, the plane was cut up into 5 chunks, each a shard.
So I was just trying to see if there was lore at the top.
Uh, I don't know.
Didn't seem like it.
The each shard is basically its own mini plane. Like you can't walk from one to the next until like the story of the set happens and they combine again. So basically each shard, such as Bant, has one color of magic and then it's two allies. So white has green blue, black has blue red, blue red. Red has black green, etc., etc., etc. So we will start with Bant actually.
All right, let me get a little bit. There we go.
Yep, no worries.
All right.
So Bant has um white and blue and green. The more important thing, in all honesty, is actually what it's missing for Bant specifically, because green, white, blue as a whole is a very honest, and very like inclusive group. It wants the best for everyone, but it doesn't need everyone to be like in one mega city. It's everyone is kind of, there's a lot of people in their own areas and they're all really good at their one thing, and then they share freely with each other. That's kind of the idea of the Bant as a color combination. Bant as an actual society, though, is a society of honor. On Alara, Bant is a society of honor. You earn sigils that are yours, and they are basically like, if you know Warhammer, they're like purity seals.
Oh, okay.
They basically show how good of a person you are.
Literal physical tokens that represent social credit.
Yes, if you look up, he's probably on this page. Rafik of the Many. You can see, or on like Scryfall, if you have it open.
There we go. Oh, he's wearing all those.
Yes, he is wearing all of those. All of those things are sigils that he is wearing. He's Rafik of the Many Sigils.
Oh,
That's also in his flavor text.
even
Many sigils, one purpose.
even his mount has sigils.
Yeah,
I
yeah, because
assume
his
that's
mount
his
is
mount.
also. Yeah, instead of riding horses, they have lions called Leotau,
Based.
which is really awkward because on another plane, on in Naya, there's the Leonin, who are
Mhm.
cat people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's oh yeah, this is also a place of castes. This is a caste system plane. So you get a bit of the bad of it.
Gotcha.
The thing is that yeah, he's the grand champion of sigils. If you scroll down, you can also see what caste he's on. Like in the description, I think it said.
Ah.
Uh, duh, 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 duh. Yeah, he's the son of a baker from Eos and was born into the mortar caste.
Gotcha.
There is social mobility, which is nice given that, he was the son of a baker
Mm-hmm.
and is now the highest ranking person in his nation. Um
Gotcha.
uh he's also a commander I've always wanted to make a deck around because oh, that's not true. This was not printed in This was definitely not printed in Shards of Alara. This was printed somewhere else. The heck? Oh, it has the sat symbol there? I'll need to look that up. Sorry.
All good.
I was looking at Scryfall. There's a alt art of him that I might need to get.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, Bant, one of the things that I always like to talk about with Bant to emphasize what they are is on Bant, knights do not wear armor on their backs because they always are in duels. And it is unthinkable that someone would attack you in the back. There is zero chance that someone would be so dishonorable to attack you in the back that no one wears armor on their backs until the plane collides together. That's my favorite thing to talk about with this plane because it's just such a such an alien concept that it
Mhm.
shows how this world is lacking something,
Mhm.
or rather, stuff is so much. Bant also, they have exalted, which means they're big on single combat. So when a single creature attacks, everyone exalts them, and they get +1/+1
Mhm.
for each exalted trigger that happens. Esper is different because Esper is primary in blue, secondary in white and black. You can kind of see from this art, Esper has charted every wind, every cloud, every breeze and gust and gale. Their sky, yes. The color of yeah, that's actually exactly right. Esper
Mhm.
is the color of politicians. You can see that their sky literally has a grid to it, as if they're looking from the inside of a globe onto a mapped out like Google Maps view of the
Oh,
stars.
that's actually there.
That's actually there. Yes.
Oh.
Esper is like so regimented and so unchaotic that it is actually a problem.
Mhm.
Um the thing is that Esper has no care or concern for anything natural.
Mhm.
So they remove parts of themselves and replace them with better versions, like think Admech from
Mhm.
Warhammer. If we want to keep doing
Oh.
that kind of thing,
Okay.
they use metal called Ethereum, I believe, to get parts of themselves removed. And in fact, Tezzeret, one of the biggest villains
Oh,
in the setting,
that
is
rat
from Esper.
bastard? Oh,
That
damn.
rat bastard. He's from Esper, and he
Oh.
was discriminated against because he was too poor to afford the material to cut off parts of his body and replace it.
Yeah, I'd
Like
war
that's why
crime
like
people over that. Yeah, I get him. I get it.
he also joined the Phyrexians for a short while so that he could get dark steel. So now his like entire torso and arm are indestructible. But that's another story for another day. Yeah, uh Esper is blue, blue, white, black. It's a society built on intelligence is above everything else, and while everyone, I don't really know I don't really know how to describe the blue and the white part of Esper.
Mhm.
I guess it's more Esper is oddly religious.
Mhm.
There's kind of this cult of there's this cult of, I guess, technology, or cult of science almost. Um, because oddly enough, black and white make for black and white really do a lot to have like religion in kind of
Mhm.
theming. Usually when it's black white, it's kind of corrupt religion, but um I guess you could think of this color combination as the cult of knowledge, or the religion of
Mhm.
knowledge, religion of science. And that's kind
Ah,
of what Esper is, if you want to think of it like that.
gotcha.
It's knowledge and science above anything else,
Mhm.
and especially above nature. They hate nature.
Mhm.
Grixis is similarly messed up.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
So important to note, Grixis is uh, black, red, blue. Grixis is a land that does not have white or green mana. And those two colors are really important because those two colors are the colors of life.
Ah.
So
Hey, let's
if,
take the world. Ah.
yeah, um,
Bro, look,
not,
Nurgle's just over that bone pile, I swear.
uh, yeah, it's not, no, I would actually disagree. I think that Nurgle is Jund. I think Nurgle is Sultai, actually. I think
Ah,
Nurgle is Sultai
that makes
rather
sense.
than Grixis. But
Yeah, I can see it.
Grixis is real close
Yeah, true.
because Yeah, because the thing is that Nurgle likes there being enough life to infect. This is just
Ah,
death.
true.
This is just a permanent world of there's no nature because there's no
Mhm.
green. There's
Gotcha.
no new life because there's no white. So you just recycle the same parts and bits and pieces over and over and over and over and over again until all that's left is bones, blood, and rotten meat.
Man, this artwork would make a sick death metal cover. Holy shit.
Yes. Welcome to the Black Parade. Um but yeah, Grixis is fucked up. Um black, blue, red is kind of a color that is just it's it's impulse. It's like the most impulsive, not the most impulsive, the second most impulsive color combination you can get because it only cares about itself, its thoughts, and its wants. So everything, all important things flow from your own point of view.
Mm.
Um and a lot of other bad things. Yeah.
The wiki
Um
even called it out.
yeah.
Well, even the wiki can't state just how bad this place is.
I'd like to point out that the leader of Grixis is called Cedrus. Cedrus has one card called Cedrus the Traitor King.
Oh, that's a fucking name. Hold on, where is it?
His flavor text is he bids his minions rise from their graves to their knees.
Jesus, dude.
He would probably be
I could just let me
he's right there. No,
Cedrus.
scroll up,
Oh,
scroll up, scroll up, scroll up.
yep, there it is.
Yeah,
Oh, damn, look
there.
at this dude.
Guy has really good art. He
Yeah.
also might be he also might be wearing demon horns because there's if you look up Prince of Thralls,
Mm-hmm.
he has like the same horns.
Oh, okay.
Um but let's go to Jund next.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can see like his because there's not really like metal, his axe has teeth on it.
Oh, yeah.
So Jund is you know how I said Grixis is the second most impulsive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is basically just a chaos demon. Um, Jund is the most impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh Jund takes umbrage with the idea of thinking things through. You could spend your energy that you use on thinking things through to
Mm-hmm.
just eat more shit or do more impulsive. I saw a video that called it chaos of thought.
I like that.
Um, basically, Jund is might the plane of Jund is might makes right to the
Mm-hmm.
most extreme. It's missing white and blue, so it's missing the thought of blue, and it's missing the thought and the reasoning of blue,
Mm-hmm.
and it's missing the what would I call, I guess, the structure of white.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas mono green believes in the food chain. They believe in the uh they believe the mouse should never fight against the owl, or
Mm-hmm.
rather the mouse the mouse should lose unless the owl is bad, and then the mouse gets away and continues on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in Jund, the mouse should absolutely try to bite the owl's throat out because that means that the mouse is stronger and more deserving of life.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Gotcha.
Jund is just it's survival of the fittest at its most brutal and most, I guess, pure. There's no like there's
Mm-hmm.
no room for like deceit or structure here because you're too busy trying to not get eaten by a dragon.
Yeah, like
Because always a bigger fish. There's always a bigger fish, and then there's something that will eat that bigger fish. And then if you manage to kill that bigger fish and eat it, man, you did real good. You should kill another one.
yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause, yeah, 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 'cause,
Christ, this place seems like a fucking hellscape. Jeez.
It's not good, but there is actual life there.
Yeah, true.
There are also like the dragons. It's not that there is it's not like you'll just be betrayed the first moment you encounter something else on Jund. It's
Mhm.
that you basically need to prove yourself to be so incredibly, excuse me, you need to prove yourself to be so incredibly above everything else that they would be at a great mistake to not just agree with you.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jund charm.
Yeah, like the flavor text on this is pretty good. Jund
Yeah.
pulses with raw energy, waiting for shamans to shave into a useful form.
Yeah. It's basically like raw violence, the plane.
Jeez.
And last but not least, I guess talking about the color combination in general,
Mm-hmm.
it's very much kind of that, like, yes, Corn would love it in
Oh
Jund.
yeah.
Um, it's very much that thing of, I guess what would I even call it? I don't want to say like might makes right again, but that's kind of all that there is. It's just
Mm-hmm.
power. Power wins. If you have the most power, you're the most right. If you have the most power, you deserve everything. And everyone else can either grovel at your feet or they can be killed.
Makes sense.
Like there's a natural order to things, but if you can supplant it, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever your impulse, that is you. Then lastly, but not leastly, Naya. Naya is red, green, white. Um
Oh, Johnny's
it's
from
where
here.
Johnny is from. Yeah. Naya is the color of big monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Any color can have really big creatures, but green has the biggest creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Any color can have a lot of creatures, but white has the most. And any color can have the most powerful compared to their mana cost creatures, but red is the most. Red is the most aggressive. Green is the biggest. White is the most. That makes Naya basically this kind of natural wonderland
Mm-hmm.
where you will get together in small hunting groups with your friends and you will try to hunt the biggest monster possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that biggest monster possible happens to be a 10-10 behemoth walking this way at the moment.
Oh God.
This is where the Tarask is from, you could think of it as.
Oh,
Like, not the actual Tarask from D&D, but like, if Magic the Gathering had the Tarask, this is where the Tarask would be from.
makes sense.
Um, yeah, their entire mechanic was whether something had 5 or more power. Like the others
Gotcha.
all had like keywords or like really obvious things. Like Esper didn't have keywords, but it had colored artifacts
Mm-hmm.
because its artifacts were people. Naya just had things saying, if you have 5 power, good. Yeah. Um it's yeah, ferocious is an ability word that eventually kind of supplanted that, and it was used for Teamer. And then there was also formidable, I want to say, which was
Gotcha.
basically the same thing, except ferocious was, do you have something with 4 or more power?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and formidable was total creatures with total power 8 or more, I think. Um, yeah. Oh, hey, that got a lot of that. Naya Battlemage got a lot of hate for a while because of the art.
Oh, because she's wearing a leaf bikini thing.
Yeah,
Interesting.
basically. Anyways, but yeah, so Naya is kind of just the big stuff. It's not might makes right because that's Jund. It's more just I might actually be Steve Argyle is the kind of person who would do that. I say having used to watch Steve Argyle's art streams. Um,
Kind of based
yeah,
if it's the
not
Evil Dead reference.
it is. Um, green marked by white and red is green is nature. White and red are militaristic, so it's basically a military of nature. Or there's this kind of warlike aspect to its nature that just ends up with being bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mhm.
And that's all the 3-color combinations. When you go to 4-color combinations, you kind of end up with one, there's no specific name. Two, there is and two, it's basically entirely about because there can't be like a central color there.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically entirely just about what color isn't there. So like, what does it mean for a card to not have black in it? Like,
Gotcha.
well, I guess it's not selfish, but it's just there's a reason why they've never done a 4-color set.
It's also the reason why I didn't bring up anything about 4-color stuff because it just kind of didn't exist.
Yeah, there's I think exactly like 7 4-color legendary creatures.
Oh wow, that's not many.
Um, and 5 of them were printed specifically to be 4-color legendary creatures.
Gotcha.
I don't really know how to search them, but
All good.
okay. So actually, I can tell you. Um, there's Aragorn the Unifier, Atraxa Grand Unifier, Atraxa Praetor's Voice, Brea Ethereum Shaper, um, Kianos and Tiro of Meletis, Omnath Locus of Creation, Saskia the Unyielding,
Mm-hmm.
Yidris the Maelstrom Wanderer, and the 14th Doctor. So
Gotcha.
I slightly underpredicted.
Hey, Mr. Violite. Glad to see you drop by.
Hello. So let's talk about Commander.
Oh
So
yeah.
Commander is the most popular format at the time. Oh, hello, Blood White Wolf. Who's that? Is that the W?
Yeah, that's one of my friends.
Okay. Hello. So Commander is a format where you play or you have a commander card who is your commander. It's a legendary creature. You need to stay within its color identity, meaning the colors to cast it and the colors of its abilities all put together, excluding specifically the ability Extort. That's the only one that's excluded because it's the only one that's really weird like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's 100 cards, only one copy of each card, except basics and things that say otherwise.
So if you ever heard the term Highlander in other card games, probably
Yeah.
where it originated from.
It originated because this. So back in the early 2000s, this game was called Elder Dragon Highlander because you had to play one of the 5 Elder Dragon cards, those being Ooh, Nicol Bolas, Arcades Sabbath, Vevictus Asmadi, Daragaz, I think Daragaz, and Nicol Bolas. No, I already said Nicol Bolas. Chromium. Chromium is the last one.
Gotcha.